Aidan O'Brien, you've got to take note of horses that he puts in Group 1s always.
We saw he's a powerful, lengthy colt.
This horse ran in the Royal Hunt Cup. It was a really impressive victory.
It's just a price thing for me. I wouldn't really go near them.
Yeah, we'll wait till May next year
I'm
for that
not
one.
having that. I mean, we have to give a shout to Yukon Glen. I mean, he's like a fine wine, isn't he?
Hello and welcome to the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel for our weekend preview. We look over Saturday and Sunday's action. It's fair to say it's probably not the best weekend racing. It is the Shergar Cup though. It's a fantastic meeting. I've known plenty of people who have been there. A fantastic team event, and the racing is all but come out teams at the moment. We've got the Racing League on at the moment as well, which seems to be going fairly well. But the Shergar Cup is a great event, and we're not going to be previewing any races there, but we're going to look at the likes of Haydock, Newmarket and the Curragh this weekend. Jack, we'll kick things off at Haydock, and it's the listed Dick Hearn Stakes. It's a listed race over a mile. Your favourite is Potapova 2-1. With Thanks is 9-2. Lola Showgirl is 7s. Memora 7. Stunning Beauty is 8-1. Waliak is 8-1 and 10-1. And Bigger the Rest. Jack, it isn't a great weekend racing, like I say, but we're going to get a video out to the guys and hopefully we'll find a few winners nonetheless.
Yeah, as you say, it's not the greatest weekend of racing, is it? First, I'm going to start with the ground, because we got stung with the ground last week at Goodwood. And at the moment, we're good to firm in places. But, I mean, we're expecting 20 millimetres of rain possible. That's what Weatherby sent out to myself this afternoon. Right. So please don't shoot me if they're wrong, because please don't shoot the messenger. But anyway, so I'm kind of thinking we could be good to firm, but it said thundery showers. So we could also be heavy, which is great. So I mean, for this, if there's anything I want to go for, it's a little ground versatile sort. And Potapova probably isn't that for me. No. She's quite exciting, don't get me wrong. She's 2 out of 3, but she hasn't beaten much whatsoever. I mean, she won twice on the all-weather. Won very well, don't get me wrong. But I mean, Natural Value, who she beat on debut, has done nothing for Mark Johnson after, although it was against the Colts, which is a little bit of a boost to the form. But yeah, she was 8th in the Coronation Stakes, which was gruelling, wasn't it? Which wasn't actually that bad. She was beaten 11 lengths that day. But for me, I think 3-1 just looks quite short. I mean, last week she was entered in the Oak Tree Stakes. She was 14-1 for that. So I think 3-1, 2-1, as you said, in a place, just looks a little bit short to me. For me, I'm going to go with a ground versatile type, and that's Waliak. Now, Waliak is 8-1. She's placed 7 of her 11 assignments. I mean, she was 3rd in the Kensington Palace this year at Royal Ascot. That was on good ground. She was at the rear of the field, and then she had the fastest final furlong time. And I mean, she was 12 lengths off the lead at the bend, didn't get a clear run 2 furlongs out, and absolutely flew home. I know what you're going to say as well. I can tell your smile. I know what's coming up.
No, you might not.
Oh, okay. And then anyway, she was 3rd in listed company at Pontefract. That was on soft ground that day. And then she was 3rd in Group 3 company, beaten just ahead by Lights On. And I don't know why you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
No, I'm not.
No, go for it.
No. Honestly, I just want you to read the top line there. What that says there.
I think it's 8-1. Waliak is a great each way bet here.
There we go. See, I told you I'd join you. No, I mean, Jack's completely right, I think. I mean, the 3rd in the Kensington Palace Stakes, and then just prior to Goodwood, Jack obviously tipped up Dream Loper at Ascot in that race. And, you know, she did finish ahead of Indigo Girl as well, who Jack and I think Indigo Girl will come on for that run. I mean, it was a long time off the track for her. But I think it actually was quite a decent race, potentially, that race at Ascot. And I think Waliak at 8-1 is a really strong bet. And Roger Varian, his stable, have been going at an 18% strike rate. I think they've had a bit of a slow season, a slow couple of years really for the Varian yard. They haven't really had a major superstar in the last few years, and I'm sure that they will coming soon. Hopefully they've got a nice bunch of 2-year-olds. But yeah, Roger Varian's going well. I just think that, like you say, a horse that's fairly ground versatile and very consistent, I'd probably say. I think this season, what was it, 3rd 3 times on the bounce? But exactly. I think she can get a win on the board, and I'm guessing you completely agree with me.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, she's placed 7 of her 11 assignments. So if you get a place, you get your money back and a little bit extra. So I hope she does that at 8-1.
There we go. Yeah, so Waliak potentially a decent each way bet at 8-1, and we'll go on to the group event there at Haydock, and it's the Rose of Lancaster Stakes over an extended mile and a quarter. It's a Group 3 event, and Real World is your 11-8 favourite here. Solid Stone 5-1, Fox's Tales is 11-2, Yukon Glen it's 13-2, Extra Elusive 7s, Dubai Honour 7 and 10-1 bar this lot. Jack, I think Real World, although being a short price, will be a lot of people's naps of the weekend. Has gone up £21 since December last year, and we all know how well this horse ran in the Royal Hunt Cup. It was a really impressive victory, and usually after the Royal Hunt Cup you kind of get a listed or group type come out of this, and I thought this horse is bound to go into listed or Group 2, Group 3 class, and did exactly that in the Stevenson Stakes at Newbury, and what I think was a really decent race against a horse that I actually quite like, and that's Darab, who ran quite well in the Prix de Jockey Club, I thought. So I think that was a really decent race, and I think it's just under 4 lengths clear of the horse who's second in the market, Solid Stone, here, and I just can't see the form being overturned. I think Real World potentially will go off shorter on the day, and potentially when there's a few withdrawals potentially from this race, I can see this horse potentially going even money odds on. I guess you're completely in agreement.
Yeah, I would be ground dependent though. I think if we did have any rain and we got anything softer than good, I'd definitely be looking to take him on. Obviously, he had his campaign in Meydan last year. He'll want as fast a ground as possible. His last 2 runs have obviously been on good to firm ground. As you say, that Royal Hunt Cup win was just group horse and a handicap. Again, we say it gets thrown about, but this was the definition of. And I mean, if you look at him last time out in the Stevenson Stakes, I mean, watching it back, Martin Harley had Darab in the perfect position. Of course, Martin Harley was on board Darab. And Real World was just in a pocket, absolutely boxed in until 2 furlongs out, when Martin Harley sent Darab on his way. And for all the money in the world, I thought Marco Gianni had got him trapped in a pocket. But I mean, he switched right, and as soon as he started to lengthen that stride, his turn of foot, we saw he's a powerful, lengthy colt, and I think he's going to do the business again. He's got entries in the Celebration Mile, the QE2, and the Champions Stakes. So I mean, if he wants to hold a good account in those kind of company, he's got to win this and win this very well. But I do hope if we see anything, we see another Marco Gianni celebration like we saw that day. It was brilliant, wasn't it? But I mean, we have to give a shout to Eucan Glen. I mean, he's like a fine wine, isn't he? At the age of 8, he just runs his race. Of course, he ran over a mile 4 last time out at Goodwood. The quick turnaround, I'm not too worried about, because I mean, I think it was he won Air back in 2018 and then finished second in the Northumberland Plate 7 days after. The only kind of quick turnaround where he hasn't performed is when he won and then went to the Goodwood Cup and didn't perform, finished 5th of 7th. Of course, 2 miles was too far for him at the time. But I mean, if the rain comes, I'd probably want to side with Eucan Glen just to take on Real World, because I think he needs 0 moisture. But I mean, of course, Extra Elusive won this in 2020, coming from the Stevenson Stakes, like Real World's doing. But yeah, hopefully it's the Real World show. Yeah, well, hopefully so, and hopefully the ground comes up the way it should for this horse. And it's great to see, like you mentioned, Marco Gianni there, sort of these stars come about. Real World's obviously not a superstar, but kind of that horse that gets them onto the main stage. And Real World seems that one. I mean, we looked at the likes of Tom Marquand and Adayab and Oshie Murphy and the likes of Roaring Lion and Kamiko, really kind of pulling them onto the main stage. And Marco seems like a really great guy. His interviews are absolutely class. A smile on his face, and no matter what, I think he could be beaten about 40 lengths and he'd still be smiling at the end of it. But it seems like a horse that's really kind of put himself into the media world, got his coverage on ITV, and I think he's going to be a really classy jockey. Hopefully when he sort of lost his £3, he's going to be up there as one of the top men. One of the Italians coming over. Tell you what, Italy are taking over the world.
They are, aren't they just?
Yeah. Eurovision, the Euros, and they're absolutely smashing up the Olympics. It's just...
Well, there we go. What we have just found out is that Jack is a big fan of the Eurovision Song Contest.
So
we'll try and get his selection for the Eurovision next year. We'll wait till May next year for that one.
I'm not having that. No, actually, I'm going to tell everyone. So before the Eurovision Song Contest, Sam messaged me saying, Jack, I hope you don't think this is bad, but every year... Honestly, I listen to all the songs and I pick out the best one, and I tell you what, I'm usually not too bad at it.
I'm not.
And I slated you for it, and he's gone, honestly, this year Sweden, get on them. Bankers, banker material, absolute tune.
They had a great tune.
So for you to give out that slander,
sorry. I mean, if you do like the Eurovision Song Contest, then fair play, but if you don't, then I do apologise for the last sort of minute of this video. Let's move on to Newmarket in the July course over there. Sweet Solera Stakes, a Group 3 over 7 furlongs. Wild Beauty is your favourite here at 5-2. Value Theories 4-1. Sunstrike 9-2. Should have been more 6-1. Roll the dice 8-1. Is it Adbracan? Am I right? I think that might be right.
I'll just nod.
Right. Adbracan's 8-1 and double figures at bar those. This is like I say, it's just such an open weekend racing, bar Real World. There's so many sort of interesting horses on show, but I wouldn't say they're top class. So it's not easy to enjoy this weekend. Lucky I'm at a wedding on Saturday, so I'm probably not going to watch much racing. But who do you fancy in this one, Jack?
I think Roll the Dice is a perfect name for the race, because that's all you're going to have to do here. You're just going to have to roll the dice. I mean, Wild Beauty was just too green to be true for the forefront of the career. I mean, it was just what was it? It was her full front, as I said, but the penny dropped so late on. William Buick was at it so early on her. She was causing all kinds of trouble elsewhere, and I mean, for me, I kind of look for two things. Mark Johnson's won this 3 times in the last 6 years, brings 2 here with Value Theory and Kipeo, I want to say. But interestingly for me, I thought Value Theory would be the most fancied out of the two, but she doesn't hold a Moidler entry, whereas Kipeo does hold a Moidler entry. And looking at Wild Beauty, I mean, as I say, she was very green, but she stuck to the task relatively nicely. If there is going to be any kind of a drop of rain, that's where she is best. So I think a little bit of give underfoot will be okay. I think she's 5-2 at the moment. Yeah. If it did stay firm, I think Value Theory could be the one to take her on. Joe Fanning kept to the task well. I mean, used the whip a couple of times and she stretched clear to make all. But I mean, for me, when you look at Wild Beauty and Sunstrike next to each other, Sunstrike just looks like she hasn't filled out the frame whatsoever. Wild Beauty, these Godolphin 2-year-olds look like they're a lot more forward than everything else, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her justify favouritism.
Yeah, I had 2 horses noted down here, and you've mentioned both there just at the end, and that was Wild Beauty. I do think will be tough to beat on quicker ground, but the other horse I would give a chance to was Sunstrike. As much as I kind of agree with you, Wild Beauty definitely looked like that horse had filled out the frame a lot better. But I will say that, you know, Oshin's Mount here did finish 8th in the Albany Stakes. The Albany has actually worked out fairly well. You look at likes of Sandrine, who's gone on to sort of frank the form back at Newmarket, and Hello You, who ran behind Sandrine, kind of frank the form of that again. And then George Bowie's horse, Osculo, who ran at Deauville and got George Bowie's first group race on the board. But it was heavy ground in the Albany, and I just don't know whether this horse enjoyed that so much. Back on hopefully a quicker going, I definitely think Oshin Mount's going to have a really decent chance here for the Gosdens. And one thing I will say is that Oshin is under a bit of pressure. William Buick has been absolutely flying in the championship. What was it? 7 winners last week, and then he had a bunch of seconds after his hangover at the wedding, and then he banged in a treble the day after. He's absolutely flying. It's interesting to see Buick now kind of getting rides elsewhere. He's obviously kind of targeted this, and his agent has gone, right, let's try and get this season, because you often see the retained riders, and you know, the likes of Jim Crowley when he's with the Hamdan team. There, obviously, you know, he retains those horses, has to go to places to ride those horses. And it's tough for them to win, but Buick, although retains Godolphin, fair play to him. He's doing really well.
But saying that, I mean, even Oshin, you think that Buick's catching him up, and then Oshin would just go, "There's a double, there's a treble for you at Pontefract or Doncaster, wherever you want to go." So it's an interesting one this year.
It really is. It's going to be an interesting championship, and we're there on Champions Day. Imagine if it comes down just to the wire.
Wow,
what a day that could become. But yeah, some interesting selections there at Newmarket, and we'll go on to Sunday now, and probably the biggest race, this is the biggest race of the weekend. It's the Keeneland Phoenix Stakes, a Group 1 over 6 furlong. Go Bears Go is your 2-1 favourite here. Dr. Zemph is 3-1. Castle Star is 4s. Beauty Inspire 7s. Velocidad is 7-1. Prettiest is 12, and 16-1, and Bigger the Field. Now, Jack, Go Bears Go, course and distance winner, and David Lonergan's got a really decent type on his hands here. A lot of people are really liking this horse for the future. I mean, what do you make of this? Is it all about the favourite, or is there potentially some value in here?
It's a 2-year-old race, so for me, I think 2-1 and 3-1. Go Bears Go and Dr. Zemph, it's just a price thing for me. I wouldn't really go near them. 5 of the last 12 winners won this coming from the Railway Stakes, so I think that's a brilliant place to start. Of course, we have quite a few entries from there coming into this. I think Colin Keane also has a big part to play. Does he choose Beauty Inspire, who's 2 out of 2 unbeaten, or does he go for Dr. Zemph? But I mean, if you look at that, did Go Bears Go get it a little bit easy out front? Who knows? He was allowed to dictate from the front and then kicked away in good style, to be fair. I thought he was going to be swallowed up by the Acropolis, but this is his only Group 1 entry, which I think is a little bit interesting. He's entered for the Mill Reef, and he's also entered for the selling race at the end of the season over at Redcar. So I don't know how high they're how optimistic they are about him. I know they've said the sky's the limit with him, but I think at 2-1, I'm happy to take him on. Likewise, Dr. Zemph, I don't think he was going to make up too much more ground, albeit he was hampered horribly. And for me, I think Castle Star shouldn't be double the price of Go Bears Go. I mean, he was slowly away. He was at the rear of the field, and then he looked like he was coming through with a winning run and had to drift. Well, didn't have to. He did drift right. Obviously hampered Dr. Zemph and a couple of others, and didn't find his momentum after that. He finished a length and a half behind Go Bears Go. I don't think he should be double the price. If he had a bit more of a luxurious trainer like AP O'Brien, I don't think he'd be 4-1. I think he'd be 5-2. And I mean, if the rain does come again, the Cara said there could be some showers on Friday. I think a bit of give in the foot would be good. Of course, they won he won the Marble Hill Stakes in grand style, beating Mosito by 2.5 lengths, who then finished 4th in the Coventry. So I think 4-1's an okay price there. But for me, I think there's a bit of value here. I think Twilight Jet at 20s is a very good price, personally. I mean, the step up and trip to 6 furlongs in the railway suited to a T. Now, he was drawn out in 14. He was at the rear of the field. He was as keen as anything. But, I mean, he absolutely flew home that day. And I was looking at the times after I got the old stopwatch out.
Right.
And he had the fastest 2 furlongs and the fastest furlongs of the race. And, I mean, that was quicker than Castle Star, Go Bears Go, Dr. Zemph, you name it. So, I do think if he manages to be a little bit more prominent, I hope he can be the surprise package. So, for me, I think Castle Star's a bit overpriced at 4s. And hopefully Twilight Jet at 20s.
There we go. I'm with you. The fact that Castle Star, I don't often like a short price in a 2-year-old race, but Castle Star is probably the one to beat in my eyes. But the one that I think is potential value in here, and Aidan O'Brien, you've got to take note of horse that he puts in Group 1s always, but he's got a horse called Prettiest entered in here. Now, Prettiest is very interesting, such a well-bred horse, this. Debarwi out of Alice Springs, a really beautifully bred horse, and hasn't quite found what they want to. Went off favourite the last day, that was over 7 furlongs, and things didn't quite work. Now, this horse did run the Albany, finished 4th, and the heavy ground, you'd probably say, wouldn't have suited this horse by all means. I would have actually thought this horse wouldn't have minded a step up in trip. Breeding suggests that a step up in trip would have been the thing, but they've obviously dropped this horse potentially down to 6 again. This horse has run well prior, like I say, in the Albany 4th there was a decent run, and maybe this horse does love soft ground. You never know, and we'll have to wait and see what we get out there, but you've got to take note of anything Aidan O'Brien enters in a Group 1, and Prettiest with a claim as well here. In this race, I think that horse is plenty of value. So there's potentially 2 each way shouts for the race, but Jack and I are both in agreement that Castle Star may be one at the top of the market that's slightly overpriced. Now, before we go, we will just quickly discuss one of the races from France. There's a race at Deauville on Sunday. It's the Prix Maurice de Guise. Jack texted me midweek saying, oh my God, we could get Starman versus Space Blues. Now, looking at the betting today, from what I could see, Space Blues definitely wasn't entered because wasn't in the top of the market, and you'd think if Space Blues was in there, he'd be 6-4, 7-4 favourite. But Starman versus Campanelli, it's an interesting race, Jack. I know that we didn't sort of note down to sort of study this, but you've got Starman win the July Cup, and Campanelli, you've got Commonwealth Cup winner. It looks like a fantastic race on paper. Yeah,
it does. Again, I think it's so ground dependent. Yeah. Starman, I mean, the only time he's failed to fire was on soft ground, and Campanelli won the Commonwealth Cup on heavy ground. So, I mean, if we get anything softer than soft, I think it's Campanelli's race to lose. But again, if it's a sounder surface, it's all about Starman.
Yeah.
So if you want someone to sit on the fence anymore,
that was literally
there you go.
Yeah. It's a race that I'm actually probably one of the races that I'm most looking forward to this weekend. Yeah. Sunday's a lot better than Saturday in my eyes. Just those 2 races from France and Ireland. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to watching potentially a little bit of the Shergold Cup. Like I say, I'm at a wedding, but I do enjoy that meeting. I've known plenty of people to go, and potentially next season we might try and get ourselves there and do a bit of work around there. Something a little bit different for this channel. But Jack, have you got anything on this weekend other than potentially watching some racing? I don't know if you're going to catch much of it.
I'm going to try and get a few runs in playing cricket, but I mean that'll probably fail miserably. And other than that, yeah, just watching the racing.
There we go. It's going to be not the best weekend, like we say, and hopefully we'll be looking forward to next week. And we will try and get a feature video to you probably on Monday. It won't be sort of a review of the weekend racing. There's not too much of a point in us doing that because there's not too much that you probably care about from this weekend. So we'll try and think of a good feature video. If you guys want to see anything whilst this video is up over the next couple of days, do comment down below, because if we see anything that could potentially be interesting as a feature video, we will do it and we will note it down and potentially upload it. Bar any Cheltenham anti-post previews, it's too early for that. We're not doing any of that just yet.
We've literally just put out
we have, yeah.
We've literally just given them a Triumph Hurdle.
Is this a game of how many times can we get Champagne Piaf or win the Triumph Hurdle into a video all the way up to Cheltenham?
That's fun.
Has been put into the market, by the way. We've seen with a couple of bookmakers 50-1. This horse has been quite. I can't believe it's been put in the market.
If you're working for Ladbrokes,
if anyone wants to offer us 100-1, we will have £1 each way. If you can offer a Champagne Piaf for the Triumph Hurdle. But yeah, it's going to be hopefully a nice warm weekend. Some people might be able to get their barbecues out. So we hope you do enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe, and we will see you on Tuesday.